In this video, which continues the discussion from the previous two videos, we'll answer a central question in Ibn Arabi's thoughts. What can truly be the object of Tawhid? This question will lead us into a subtle exploration of the relationship between essence and divinity, and into the profound logic of tanzih and tashbih that underlies the divine oneness. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to this channel. If the discussions on this channel offer you new perspectives, expand the way you think, and accompany your moments of reflection, your support truly means a great deal. By becoming a channel member or joining us on Patreon, you help keep this small channel alive and sustainable. Or you can also help me out monetarily through PayPal. And to those who have already supported this channel monetarily, thank you deeply. Your generosity makes this work possible and it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you for being part of this small channel.
The expression, the one, the many, demonstrates how far Ibn Arabi advances the understanding of Tawhid as the integration of tanzih and tashbih. If divine unity must encompass both absolute transcendence and relational manifestation, this raises a crucial question. Can the object of Tawhid ever be the essence, which is utterly transcendent and beyond all knowledge? Ibn Arabi's answer is unequivocal. The essence, precisely because it is absolutely unknowable, cannot be the object of Tawhid. This position is made explicit when Ibn Arabi states, "The object of man's knowledge of God is the declaration of the oneness of the divinity, Tawhid al-Uluha, that which is named Allah, not the Tawhid of the essence, since the essence cannot be known at all." Accordingly, between the essence and the divinity, the only possible object of Tawhid is the divinity. It is at this level that positive knowledge of God becomes attainable through the divine names that articulate both incomparability, tanzih, and similarity, tashbih, and together describe Allah. The essence, by contrast, remains forever beyond the reach of affirmation, conception, or experiential grasp. Ibn Arabi further supports this view by invoking a well-known prophetic saying in which the prophet instructs, "Reflect upon all things, but reflect not upon God's essence." This hadith reinforces the principle that human reflection and knowledge are directed toward God as He manifests and reveals Himself, not toward the essence in its absolute hiddenness.
In the passage that follows, Ibn Arabi reaffirms this conclusion by explicitly denying that the essence can serve as the object of Tawhid.
Quote, "God has commanded us to gain knowledge of the declaration of His oneness, but He has not commanded us to know His essence. On the contrary, He forbade that with His words, and God warns you of Himself. So also the messenger of God forbade us to reflect on the essence of God. Naught is like unto Him, so how can one reach the knowledge of His essence? But He said, commanding us to declare His oneness, know then that there is no God but God. Hence there is no knowledge of Him, except in respect of the fact that He is a God. This is the knowledge of God's appropriate attributes, through which He becomes distinguished from that which is not a God. This is the knowledge commanded by the law, but one cannot know His essence, since none knows God but God." This point also underscores the necessity of attributes, which serve to distinguish the divinity from what is not God, namely creation. It is precisely because the divinity allows determination through names and attributes that it can become the object of knowledge and Tawhid. By contrast, regarding the essence, which is utterly beyond all delimitation, nothing affirmative can be stated, except perhaps by way of negation. In the passage that follows, Ibn Arabi articulates the complete inability of creation to circumscribe or define the essence. Quote, "But since there is no correspondence or correlation between God and creation, on the contrary, he is independent of the worlds, and this belongs to no existent essence except the essence of God. No engendered existence is related to him. No eye perceives him. No limitation encompasses him, and no demonstration found to be necessary by the intellect gives knowledge of him, just as the negation of attributes of interdependence that would bring him under delimitation is but speculation."
Ibn Arabi's last remark that the negation of the attributes itself remains a matter of speculation should not be overlooked, for it marks a crucial moment in his theology. This claim redirects the discussion of the essence in a decisive way, opening onto a deeper insight into the inner logic and mutual necessity of tanzih and tashbih.
What Ibn Arabi seeks to deliver is that safeguarding divine oneness by merely negating all attributes of similarity from God, on the grounds that the essence is absolutely non-delimited, is ultimately inadequate. The reason is subtle but decisive. The claim that the essence is non-delimited, when taken as an exclusive and final description, itself becomes a delimitation, even as it attempts to affirm God's transcendence. In other words, to restrict God to non-delimitation alone is already to speak of something other than God. As Ibn Arabi puts it, if he were delimited by his non-delimitation, he would not be he. To affirm the essence as truly non-delimited therefore requires more than asserting its independence from the world. It also requires affirming its independence from this very independence. For Ibn Arabi, God is not only non-delimited, but is also not confined by non-delimitation itself. This means that God can delimit himself without thereby becoming limited. As he famously states, God possesses non-delimited being, but no delimitation prevents him from delimitation. On the contrary, he possesses all delimitations, hence, he is non-delimited delimitation. Expressed in more explicitly theological terms, just as God is not restricted by non-delimitation, he is likewise not restricted by incomparability alone. His very incomparability demonstrates that he cannot be confined by any limitation whatsoever, including the limitation of declaring him exclusively incomparable. For this reason, he is also comparable. Here, the logic of tanzih unfolds into tashbih. Absolute incomparability, when properly understood, necessarily entails the possibility of similarity without collapsing into it.
In other words, although tanzih is commonly understood to mean that God is utterly incomparable to created things and therefore cannot resemble them in any way, Ibn Arabi argues that this very understanding imposes a restriction on God.
Since God is absolutely beyond all forms of delimitation, such a restriction must itself be rejected. Consequently, God may resemble a created thing, if he so wills. This insight discloses the secret of tashbih, which is in fact upheld by the deeper secret of tanzih. True incomparability or transcendence means that God surpasses every conception of what he is. Thus, when God is declared incomparable, he transcends even this declaration and, by doing so, becomes comparable, that is, capable of similarity. Yet one must not stop at this point because the inverse also holds true. When God is affirmed as similar, he transcends this affirmation as well, and thereby proves himself dissimilar or incomparable. A sound understanding of Tawhid therefore requires recognizing that God is tanzih within tashbih, and tashbih within tanzih. as Ibn Arabi himself expresses it. Quote, "In reality, he who professes incomparability has delimited him and confined him in his declaration of incomparability and emptied him of similarity, while he who professes similarity has also delimited and confined him in his declaration of similarity and emptied him of incomparability. But the truth is found in combining the statement of the two groups. That being the case, Ibn Arabi maintains that it is impossible for the realities to change, and since the reality of the essence is to remain eternally non-delimited and unknowable, whenever it appears within delimitation and becomes accessible to knowledge, it does so only in the mode of divinity.
In this way, the inner secret of the divinity is disclosed, a secret that is itself grounded in and sustained by the deeper secrets of the essence. As Ibn Arabi states,
quote, "Now all of this, I mean his entering under delimitation for his servants, is in respect of the fact that he is a God, not in respect of the fact that he is an essence. For the essence is independent of the worlds, but the king is not independent of the kingdom, since if there were no kingdom, he could not be called king. Hence, the level of divinity bestows delimitation, not the essence of al-Haq. This makes clear that the essence remains forever unknowable and can never serve as the direct object of Tawhid. Yet if the divinity, accessible to knowledge, is affirmed as one, then the essence cannot be anything other than one as well.
In this sense, the essence may be understood as the indirect object of Tawhid, while the divinity functions as its direct object.
However, as we have already seen, Allah as divinity is known only through the divine names. For this reason, the divinity itself can also be regarded as an indirect object of Tawhid. Ibn Arabi's previous passage further suggests that the divinity is, in a certain respect, dependent upon creation, a dependency rooted in the logic of relationships that arise when God enters into delimitation as divinity and becomes knowable through the divine names. What emerges from this discussion is that, for Ibn Arabi, the divine essence remains utterly unknowable and can never be the direct object of Tawhid, while the divinity, known through the divine names, constitutes its proper field of affirmation. Tawhid thus appears not as an abstract metaphysical claim, but as a relational and dynamic recognition of God's oneness, sustained by the inseparable interplay of tanzih and tashbih.
Thank you for watching and for spending your time with this channel. A special and heartfelt thank you to Sean Wong, our highest tier patron on my Patreon page. Your generous support means more than I can express. See you all next time.